Well, thanks for tuning into this conversation. It's our last conversation at the WEF, but we saved the best for the last, if you will, because it's the first time that we are talking to Mohit Joshi of Tech Mahindra. He's in WEF as the head of Tech Mahindra for the first time as well. So, Mohit, a confluence of events, but thanks so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Niraj. It's wonderful to be here with you, and really appreciate being the icing on the cake and the cherry on the top at the absolute end.
Both and more. I'm sure of it. Okay, so let's start with this whole conversation, the macro conversation around AI. The last 4 days, you walked down the promenade. Everybody talks about that. What's your view? Because must say, Niraj Shah was here and he said that AI is great, but maybe the hype around AI is a lot more than what it should be. What's your thought?
Look, I think it's a very powerful technology, right? And obviously, it has evolved over time. And so, what we had earlier was machine learning, and what we have now is a more powerful tool that allows us to converse almost in natural language through Gen AI. It is a powerful tool. What we have to do is we have to figure out the use cases for the underlying technology, because for most businesses, the transformation that they want to drive is through use cases, right? And I feel that 3 clear use cases are emerging for the use of AI. The first use case is very clearly from a contact center perspective, right? Or a digital deflection perspective. Can I understand before you call a contact center about what you want, right? Can I, instead of having an agent speak to you, can I have a chatbot speak to you? And I think for a contact center rep as well, to be able to understand your requirements perfectly, to be able to anticipate your needs, I think that's a very powerful use case. I think the second very powerful use case is from a talent perspective, right? How do we look at the talent that we have within an organization? How do we look at the talent outside? How do we do skilling at scale? How do we do hiring at scale? How do we figure out what people are best at, right? How do we make the best use of them? I think that's a second very emerging powerful use case that we're seeing. And the third use case, which is the one everybody is talking about, is about developer productivity. A lot of programming, a lot of testing, a lot of design can automatically become, can become automated, can become more intuitive. So these are the top 3 use cases, but clearly there are millions of use cases, right, for every industry. There are anti-money laundering and client onboarding use cases for banking. There are, field services and network monitoring and, energy usage use cases for telecom companies. There are computer vision use cases for auto companies, and so a confluence of use cases that can help drive greater productivity, higher levels of sales, better customer satisfaction.
Okay, so we were talking to this global chairman of ABB, who said that he kind of rubbished the idea that corporates are ready for AI. They are not, according to him.
Yeah.
One, I would love your view on that point. Part 2, if corporates are not ready and they have to adapt to this via usage of, say, experts like yourself or your company, and then on the other hand, there is also this presumed increased cost that will come in because of enhanced security protocols that will be required because everybody is on cloud, so to say. Yeah. How do you think IT costs, IT service costs for corporations across the world over the course of the decade shape up? Do they rise up materially?
Yeah.
What's your view?
Well, look, my own sense is that if IT costs are rising, it is because consumer behavior is changing, right? Now, let's say I'm a consumer goods manufacturer, I can say my IT costs have gone up from 3% to 10%. It's a disaster. But equally, I could say that the percentage of my stuff that I used to sell direct to consumer has gone up from 0% to 50%, and the direct to consumer sales that I do is a lot stickier, gives me better margins, right?
Sure.
So IT costs are not rising in isolation. It's not like the business is the same and my IT costs have increased. The shape of my business has changed dramatically. Now, as far as AI is concerned, I think what corporations or enterprises are struggling to do is to figure out meaningful use cases that can be deployed at scale. The challenge is deployment at scale. Everybody is doing experimentation. Everybody is doing these proof of concepts. We have to be able to deploy at scale, and which is why I said the use cases around talent, the use cases around developer productivity, and the use cases around the contact center are possibly 3 areas where there is deployment at scale across industries.
Okay. So evolving landscape, maybe we'll get better answers as the course of the year or the next 2 years go by,
Yes.
you would reckon?
No, for sure. Look, like any other technology, right? in the short run, maybe it'll give less than what people had thought. In the long run, it'll give significantly more than what people had thought, right? So I think it will truly be transformational. And this is unlike some other technologies in the past, like like blockchain, for instance, that were more of a chimera. This one is very real.
Okay. Well, okay. So thanks. That's one thing out of the way. Now, about client spends and a lot of chatter around whether discretionary spending could pick up in 2024, early half, latter half, etc. The data that came out recently from the US, not as bad. So that kind of disrupts the rate cut conversation as well. How do you see the macro landscape?
Well, the macro landscape is impossible to predict, right?
Okay.
If you look at it last year, if we were sitting here last year, the common consensus, and this is the consensus held by 99.9% of all economists and business people, was that the US would be in recession and China would grow at 6% plus. Fast forward 1 year, the US actually grew very, very strongly, and China growth was not too bad, but was certainly below 6%, right? So it is impossible to predict the short term with any level of accuracy. But what we can see is some trends are very clear, right? For instance, the trend around AI, the trend around enterprise technology, the trends around cloud, the trends around cybersecurity are very real. And maybe we can argue about whether it will grow at 3% or it will grow at 30%, but very clearly there will be growth, right? So while it is impossible to say whether the upturn will come in Q2 or in Q3, certainly there will be an upturn, right? In the long run, the role of technology is going to become more important. The challenge I feel is that when things are going well, nobody thinks the parties are going to stop. And when things are going poorly, people never think that there's going to be an upturn.
That's true. So tell us about your client conversations. In some sense, newer conversations as the head honcho of Tech Mahindra. Also newer conversations at the start of the year as well. So how are client conversations currently?
Yeah. So look, I think clients are very interested in what the new technology can do for them, right? Clients are very interested in what AI can do for them. Clients have invested very heavily in data analytics platforms that they feel will give them significant benefits. So for instance, telco operators are very keen on seeing how they can improve the longevity of their clients, how they can get an ARPU uplift. But equally, they're very interested in seeing how they can get more energy consumption or lower energy consumption in their networks. They're very interested in seeing how they can drive better customer conversations. So the technology related conversations are very broad based, right? And I would say there are broadly on 3 themes. Can you help me become more productive? Can you help me sell more? Or can you help me get better client outcomes? And finally, can you change the shape and the structure of my organization, right? Can it become flatter? Can it become leaner? Can it become sort of more adaptive? Can it learn more quickly? Can it become more agile? So these are the 3 things people ask us for. Help me become more productive, help me sell more or have better outcomes with customers, and help me transform my organization.
Yeah, but is there an element of discretionary spend conversation about when that could show some meaningful comeback also weaved into these conversations, or is it difficult to predict right now?
Well, see, there are so many, it is not just one big, spend is not one lumpy piece, right? Spend could come back in banking, but could weaken further in telecom, right? Spend could come back in Australia, but weaken in Korea, because we are not looking at one unified direction for the global economy across industries. That would take a massive rebound. See, nobody is talking about a post-COVID type bounce, right? Where all sectors, all geographies, all economies were booming, right? So we're not going to have one hockey stick move across the world.
But for your mother markets, let's say, as they stand right now.
Yeah, I think my own sense is manufacturing has stayed resilient through the crisis. In banking and financial services, people are talking about some sorts of green shoots emerging. And in telco, look, everybody's had a very brutal 2023. So hopefully there will be a comeback in 2024.
Okay.
But again, it's impossible to say whether it will be in 3 months or in 6 months.
Now, tell us, as you envisage Tech Mahindra from now for the next 3 years, 2 things. One, it's had a difficult recent past. So ignore the fact that there is a base effect in play, but do you reckon that, forgive me for using the term, but glory days around a lot of headline numbers, could they come back sooner rather than later, part 1, or will it take its natural course? And 2, with the decades of experience in BFSI that you bring, does it make a larger presence felt in the Tech Mahindra P&L over the course of the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So Neeraj, a couple of things, right? One is obviously we're going through our silent period, so I'm just going to give you a sort of a broad indicators. My own sense is that I've been in the job as the CEO for a month, right? So it's too early for me to lay out like a detailed roadmap of how things will evolve. But I can tell you a few things, right? One is from what I've seen of the organization, we have an incredible talent base, right? We have an incredible talent base. The company has a very deep engineering heritage, right? And because of the strength of the Mahindra brand name, especially in India, there is a very strong sense of employee loyalty, right? Which is why we have the lowest attrition rates and we have a truly experienced workforce. I feel from a customer perspective, while obviously we have unique strengths in telecom and manufacturing, we also have $1 billion plus business in financial services. We've got a very robust healthcare and life sciences business, and we have emerging strengths in in retail, in logistics, in utilities, right? So we've got a very diverse customer base. Now, given the fact that like I said, tech spends are increasing, we have a good talent base, we have a good customer base. I feel with the focus that we're driving on our largest accounts, with the focus that we're driving on service line innovation, right? And the huge amount of support that we have from our parent, which is present in so many businesses and gives us the subject matter expertise, I'm very confident that this company, will continue to be a powerhouse. BFSI, we already have, like I said, $1 billion business in BFSI. My own sense is, if you look at every single service provider, their BFSI practice is the single largest portion of their, of their revenue pool. It is not for us, and I suspect that we will grow our BFSI business at an outsized pace over the next few years. I'm very confident. It's a business, like you said, I understand very well, and I'm very comfortable, speaking to boardrooms, speaking to CIOs, speaking to business leaders about the change imperatives in that business and how we can help.
Actually, that's something that I suspect that you will grow at a fast pace. I was just looking for confirmation because of the experience that you bring to the table out there. Okay, so that's one thing done. Secondly, again, as long as it doesn't hamper your silent period, ER&D, it's a pocket that a lot of companies are either specializing in, or traditional services companies are also making, say, pocket acquisitions to try and make a presence felt there. You have an auto parent, so to say.
Yes.
What do you think about that practice?
No, I do think that we have a very strong engineering practice, and if I look at at our auto expertise, for instance, right, it's everything from product design, where in addition to our homegrown capabilities, we also own Pininfarina, which is the leading Italian designer. We have very strong production capabilities in terms of building out the factories of the future. We have very strong performance capabilities, right? For instance, post sale warranties. We have a really powerful platform for auto that clients work with, right? So across the board, whether it's after sale service or it is production or it is product design, we have very strong capabilities. Apart from the the more traditional ER&D capabilities, we've also acquired a very significant digital engineering capability because of some acquisitions of Digital on Us in Latin America and CTCO in in Eastern Europe. So putting these together, right, is a very powerful combination. One of the things that we have done during our more recent reorganization is the pockets of engineering capability that were being run distinctly. So we were, for instance, running digital engineering distinctly from integrated engineering services, distinct from many of our chip design capabilities, distinctly from many of the portfolio companies we had acquired. We have now put it under one leader, and I'm very confident that that integration also will help us. You spoke about the parent, and the parent clearly gives us an enormous amount of access, not just to the work that we're doing for them, but also their huge supplier base across the world, right? And the Mahindra Group has a tremendous amount of goodwill from all the suppliers, which we will be looking to leverage.
Okay. Finally, just a word. Now, at the 4 days out here at Davos, almost everybody tells us that the India chatter is very loud, very high, and very positive. What have you felt about this?
No, I certainly feel so. Right? Look, this is my 10th year coming to Davos. And obviously, look, Indian companies and the Indian government have always had a outsized presence in Davos. I think the view has been that many times in the past, the promise of economic growth has not really materialized, and we have sort of almost snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. This time around, it feels real, right? I think people are reassured by the stability, people are reassured by the economic growth that they're seeing across sectors, people are reassured by the global ambitions of groups like Mahindra. And so I feel that this time around, it certainly feels like a story whose time has come.
Maybe India's moment to lose, if at all. But Mohit Joshi, wishing you all the best in your new journey. Thank you so much, and we'll be there to quiz you at almost every single quarter at the end of the quarter to try and understand how we are shaping up this piece. But thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you so much, Niraj. Thank you.